Welcome to the Coven Chat.
Hello, merry meet, and welcome. Thank you for joining me here at the Maiden Circle Coven Chat podcast, where we talk all things witchy, spiritual, and human. This is our very first episode, so I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Victoria Wilder, or Morgana Britt, depending on where you look. I am the High Priestess of Maiden Circle Coven, a small teaching coven established in New York City in 2014. We have an online course. You can find that on Udemy. Just search up Maiden Circle Coven and Academy. We have a Facebook page. We have, we're on the internet. Just look us up. When I say we, I mostly mean me and, of course, my students, some of whom you may meet on this podcast down the line, or if you decide to share your journey with us by joining the Coven Path course or joining our Facebook group, you are welcome to do so. But who am I? Well, I am a eclectic pagan with a Wiccan-leaning practice. I have been doing my spiritual practice for 20 years now, and I started Maiden Circle because in 2014, I had already been doing this spiritual thing for about 14 or 15 years at that point, and a lot of newer people, new witches, new practitioners, they were asking the same questions, and so I thought I would set up some sort of course to help answer those questions, and it just sort of blossomed into this big, beautiful thing that now I'm very proud of. And we're still growing, of course. There will be new courses set up on Udemy. I want to continue to offer educational resources through this coven, but this podcast is going to be more than that. My goals for this podcast are to share my thoughts on spirituality, on paganism, with the people who want to hear them. Whoever you are out there, thank you for listening to me. For quite some time, I have been doing monthly chats with my students where I share with them my thoughts on how we can make our world better, essentially, on the spiritual practice, share with them things that I'm learning as I'm learning them, get their opinions, share with them everything that I think has helped me come to a place in my life where I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be, where I'm in love with where I'm going. I think everyone deserves to feel good about their life. And so I try to offer what I've learned in the hopes that some people can use that to in turn feel good about their lives and help someone else as they go. Because at the end of the day, I do think we need each other and need to take care of each other. That is actually the topic of today's episode. I'll be talking about relationships and human connection. In the future, I will have interviews and guests on with me, so it's not always going to be my lovely voice. You're going to be able to hear the darling voices of some really wonderful, talented, interesting, spiritual people. And on the episodes where we don't have an interview, I will try my best not to put you to sleep. Unless that's what you want. If you find peace and you want to fall asleep to my voice, I am not going to be mad about it. And then at the end of our episodes, I would like to offer you something that I have found has been helpful in my life and has helped other people. And that is a divinatory reading. I will either use tarot cards, oracle cards, pendulums, stones, runes, whatever I'm called to for that episode to give you a reading at the end. Feel free to write me or message me online, on Facebook, email me, whatever you desire, and let me know if you have any specific questions you'd like me to address in our end of episode readings, and I will do my best to get to them as they come, first served as it is. Again, thank you so much. I do believe we are going to have a wonderful time together. I think we're going to learn a lot from each other. I hope to learn a lot from you. I hope you write me. I hope, you tell me your ideas. I would love for this to be a very participatory event. If you would like me to interview you and you're a spiritual person, go ahead and write me. I would be so honored to have you and welcome you here and chat with you. So without further ado, I wish you all the blessings in the world. Let's start our show.
Pagan fun fact. Here's your fun facts now.
It is 2022, and in a whole lot of pagan communities, I am seeing a resurgence in Egyptian magic, and that is so exciting, so fascinating to see. One of the things we have been seeing for years when it comes to anyone who is trying to connect with Egypt, even if they're not in the pagan community, is the symbol of the Ankh. And I wanted to read to you from Ancient Egyptian Divination and Magic by Eleanor Harris a little bit about the Ankh. Since we're seeing it everywhere, we've seen it on all our Hotep pals, and now it is becoming more and more mainstream. It's always been kind of in the spiritual community, but it is getting more and more mainstream, so we're seeing it a lot more. The Ankh is perhaps the most popular amulet to survive to our modern day. They are found in most jewelry stores and are worn traditionally around the neck, just as they were in Egypt. Typically, they're made of gold, sterling silver, copper, and many other metals. The Ankh is a symbol of life that is thousands of years old. As an amulet, it is used to lengthen and protect life. In Egypt's earliest history, the Ankh existed as a popular amulet that every god carried. As a hieroglyphic sign, Ankh is the word for life. Its exact origin, or what the Ankh represents in form, is hotly debated. Some Egyptologists claim that it represents a penis sheath, while others state that it is the form of a sandal strap. Since in ancient Egypt, this strap had a name which resembled the word for life. Because the Ankh is also a hieroglyphic sign, its power can be captured simply by writing it. This can be done during any magical work, or it can be drawn on papyrus, rolled up, and worn on a cord. The Ankh is often seen on ancient jewelry with the Wijat and the Jed pillar. Combined, these three symbols provide potent protection. Animals are also found on artifacts with the Ankh, among them snakes, baboons, turtles, and falcons. It is logical to choose fierce and intelligent animals to place beside the Ankh. These and the two additional symbols above were often fashioned into gold and silver necklaces to be worn by a child. It is interesting to note the apparent relationship between the Egyptian word Ak, which describes the part of a deceased person that acquired magical powers in the afterlife, and that of the Ankh as a word, an amulet. That's your pagan fun fact for the day. Hi. So today I wanted to talk to you about relationships. Of course, we all have an idea of what relationships are, but just so we're all on the same page, I am going to kind of explain my definition of relationships. So for me, a relationship is any connection with another living being, another person, especially we're going to be talking about people, but it's any relationship with another person that goes beyond the surface, that really kind of holds a special place in our heart. And of course, there are different types of relationships. So we have friendships, we have family relationships, we have romantic relationships, we have work acquaintances. Work acquaintances are a little bit different because they don't necessarily hold that place in our heart. They're a type of periphery relationship that can become something else. They're almost like a transition in between stranger and friend, or stranger and lover, whichever. And they are, they're just not necessarily what I would consider a true relationship. That goes really for any acquaintance, even if you are blood related to a person, if you've never met them before and then you're 30 years old and you meet them, then they're an acquaintance, and then they can become a friend. But just sharing blood, just being relatives, I'm not sure is something I would consider a relationship. Obviously, your mileage may vary. You may disagree, and that's totally fine. That's what we love to hear. People who disagree, people who think for themselves and have their own ideas. But that's just kind of how I see it. I don't know if I consider those relationships in the personal sense. Obviously, in the literal dictionary sense, any connection you have with another person is a type of relationship, but that's not what we're here for. I think we as a society place different weights on these different kind of relationships, and part of the reason that I wanted to talk to you today is because I've been seeing kind of a rise in the dismissal of certain types of relationship. And honestly, this isn't new, but it just seems far more common nowadays than it was when I was a kid. But even when I was younger, there were people, you know, when I was like a teenager, there were people saying things like no new friends and I don't need friends and all that stuff. And then as I got older, it became, who needs a relationship, a romantic relationship, who needs love, blah, blah, blah. And then even now it's like cut off your family, get rid of those, like, because they're toxic, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. I get removing toxic energy from your life. But we're not telling anyone not to do that. My point is just that I've been seeing a very big increase in people steadily isolating themselves and pushing themselves away from human connection, away from relationships of all sorts. Of course, I think that's scary, and I think that's really sad. My personal belief is all of these relationships, especially those, I think those are like the main three: friendship relationships, familial relationships, and romantic relationships. All three of these relationships are essential to having a healthy connective life. I think they're essential to building a healthy society, that everyone needs to have these connections, and everyone, needs to forge these connections. There is no substitute for one or the other. You cannot substitute familial love with friendship. You cannot substitute friendship with romance, and you cannot substitute romance with either of the others. Like, you can't substitute one for the other. They are their own category. What that means to me is you may have a very toxic family, or you may have no connection whatsoever to your family. You may have been adopted out, or unfortunately a lot of people in the United States, especially that I know of, live in the system and they don't have any blood relative connections. But see, you can forge a family. You can create a family. You don't have to rely on your DNA for that. Hell, I'll be your family, write me up and call me sister, and I'm there. I'll try my best anyway, as long as you're not toxic too. We protect ourselves here. But yeah, you can't substitute them, and you shouldn't separate them as far as trying to push one out of your life more than the other. Like I was saying earlier, we do place different values on these types of relationships. So we will say that, you don't need romance because you have friends. But the thing is, you can have and should have both. And romantic love doesn't have to be what you see in the movies. It doesn't have to be this mad, passionate thing. I mean, we all want it to be, and well, not all of us. Some people are aromantic, some people are asexual, and they have no desire for the passion. But for those of us who do, I think it's important to remember that romantic love, that relationship that you desire, it's so much more than just the passion, than just the exciting moments, than just the fun moments. It is about commitment. When you really truly love someone that way, it's about wanting the best for them. It's about enthusiastically enjoying that you get to spend and share your moments and your life and your ideas and your creations and things that matter to you with this person, that you chose this person and they chose you. However you set that up, it could be you chose this person and they chose you and they also chose their other wife and you also chose their other wife and you'll live together in happy harmony. Whatever it is, it's people who love each other in that romantic sense to the point where it's like, I want to share all of my moments with you and I want to share my intimacy with you and I want to create family with you. And at that point, those two types of love become one, essentially. Your family becomes, your romance becomes your best friend. And that kind of balance, I think it's just very dangerous when people try to dismiss one type of love. Because at the end of the day, that kind of balance is the most blissful thing, and to tell people that they shouldn't pursue something so wonderful, it seems evil, seems like the right word, to try to turn people away from that. There must be evil in it. And the sad thing is, whoever started telling people that they don't need one type of love over another, that they shouldn't at least try to pursue it, or try to, not even pursue it, try to cultivate it in their lives, because if you're pursuing it, you're always going to be chasing it. But when you're building relationships with people, you're not chasing them. You're coming together, you're working together, you're growing together, you're building together, and these things are always organic. These loves are always organic. Creating your family, it's an organic thing, and when you try to force it, or when you, like I said, put one over the other, when you get out of balance, that's when the misery comes in. That's when the heartbreak comes in. That's when you start putting your desires over your needs. You start putting your wants over your requirements. You start confusing them. You start thinking, I want that person, so I must love them, but they don't want me back, and now I'm upset, now I'm hurting. Instead of thinking, I know this person, and I love this person, and that's all there is. And if this person loves me back, fantastic, we're gonna have a good time. And if this person doesn't feel love for me, I love them, but they're not the one who's going to build with me. They're not, that's not the love that, that's not the type of love that's going to move me towards what I need, towards the future that is meant for me, that's going to feed me back. Because at the end of the day, wanting a person, it's something we can't help, but it doesn't matter. The actual reason, though, that I am talking to you is because I have a couple of theories for what the problem is, besides the fact that we are putting weight on certain relationships over others. I have a feeling that the reason we do that is because of some very arbitrary things that we as a society have just come to accept. And then very recently decided we shouldn't continue to accept it. And we didn't always either. And that is, of course, the gender binary situation. Even straight cis people have to interact with gender binary. I mean, obviously they do. But they didn't have to think about it until very recently. They didn't have to really consider what their gender meant, what their sex was, what their sexuality was. They just were the default, and we all know that. Nobody's, making any new points here about that. My point is, I think we'll do better. We would do better as society moving forward if instead of looking at ourselves as men and women, boys and girls, instead of looking at ourselves as not men and women, instead of thinking in terms of man, woman, non-binary, not man, not woman, androgynous, because all of these are presentation. So I think we should start looking at ourselves in terms of masculine and feminine, because that is universal. That is something every being possesses. Every living being possesses masculine energy and feminine energy, and it is not about sex. It is not about the body in any form. It is about the essence. It is about the nature of the thing. So femininity is receptive, acceptive, soft, gentle, nurturing, caring, light, flexible, mutable. Femininity can be connected with traits like wisdom, intuition, with elements like water and earth. Femininity is known for creation and birth. Femininity is curious, but often quiet. Then we have masculinity, which is projective, giving, doing, acting. Masculine energy can be connected with fire and air. Masculine energy is often rigid or tough, where the feminine may flow through a maze, the masculine will knock the walls down and walk straight. Masculinity is protective, direct. Masculinity takes charge. Like femininity, masculinity is creative as well. Whereas the feminine births, the masculine moves. What comes from the feminine, the masculine makes solid, strong. Where the feminine is inspiration, the masculine is action. My point, of course, is that we need these both to be full, balanced human beings. We need this energy, and some people have a little more masculine than they have feminine energy, and some people vice versa, and some people don't feel a strong affinity with either. And some people do feel very balanced. Like I feel a very masculine and feminine person. I go through my day engaging with both energies just kind of naturally, and I always have. I don't know if I'll say I always have been very natural engaging with them in a balanced way, but I've always switched between them throughout my life. And as I grew older, I learned that I did need both of them to be my full self. It is my masculine energy that inspired me to start this work, to start Maiden Circle, to start my podcast, to write a book. It is my feminine energy that gave me the ideas, that told me what to say, that is speaking through me at this time. They are not separate, and one is not better than the other. I think our problem with relationships is that we have decided either way that one is good and one is bad, or one is better than the other, one is more important, more valuable, more necessary, or one is, I guess I said it all already, more valuable. But that's not true. The truth is, there is no good and bad in masculine and feminine. There is no better or worse in masculine or feminine. There is only what they are. They are simply descriptions of energy. They are simply descriptions of one's nature. And when we can accept that, we'll be a lot more open to connecting with other people, because we will recognize, someone's masculine energy that my feminine energy is drawn to could be just a sign that of something I need in myself, that I need to create more masculinity. Or it could be that we are meant to help balance each other out, help each other figure out our own masculine, feminine energy. But then we get to the point of, well, I'm a girl, so I can't call him, or he's supposed to ask me out, or I can't hang out alone with that guy because my boyfriend's gonna get jealous because he's a guy and I'm a girl. Instead of that person is simply more masculine, I'm more feminine, and we get along. It doesn't have to be romantic, it doesn't have to be sexual. We simply love each other as friends. And that person, we just happen to have compatible energies. Because masculine and feminine, they are attractive energies. And that's another thing that we do, is we see that we understand. We as a society understand to a certain extent this core truth that masculine and femininity are attracted to one another like magnets, like the negative positive ions. They are meant to interlock, but we have taken it to this physical place, to this place where if a person has a lot of masculine energy and I have a lot of feminine energy, then we're supposed to interlock, physically. We're supposed to bump our pieces together. And if we don't do that, we're confused. Even if we don't want to do that, they don't want to do that, everyone around us is going to bring it up and create confusion. People around us are going to assume we're dating and create confusion because we don't understand. We don't understand that everybody has these two energies within them already. And so if we see someone who presents more of one and someone who presents more of the other, we think they gotta be together. Instead of thinking that is a masculine feminine being and that is a whole masculine feminine being, and they just get along. They just like each other, they're just friends. And that's just obviously one side of the thing. We are not even talking about familial, because that's usually not an issue in families. It's really an issue with friendships and relationships, and I think a lot of our problems can be solved if we stopped looking at each other as Lego blocks that are supposed to fill each other, instead of as two whole pieces of one big puzzle, one big organism. We are all building blocks of our own. We are all cells. We are all complete systems. And that means we all are masculine and feminine, and we are all everything we need to be as one. And then when we meet someone else, once you know that you are everything you need to be, once you know that you are masculine, feminine, you are all that you need to be. And once you accept that love comes in different forms, and that your wants and desires are not necessarily your needs, which I think comes with finding balance within yourself. But once you learn that you are everything you need, you're going to be a lot more capable of giving love, truly unconditional love, without expectations, to anyone, to everyone, without fear, without questioning it. And that's a really beautiful thing in my experience, to just be able to love people without demanding or expecting something in return, without wanting something in return, because the fact is we don't need anything in return. I know it can sound confusing when I say that we need all these types of love, and then saying you don't need someone to love you the way you love them in return. But it's not contradictory, because the fact is you need to cultivate this love within yourself. And when you do that, you will reflect it. And the person who's meant to love you that way, they simply will. You won't need to look for it. You won't need to crave it. You won't need to desire it. You won't need to request it. It will simply come because it is yours, because it is meant for you, and because you have created the energy within yourself that is open to it, that is calling out to it. You've created a beacon of love within yourself by learning how to give love, how to be love, how to exist in love. And we do that when we let go of our desires. We do that when we let go of our expectations. We do that when we let go of our predetermined ideas of what a certain type of person is supposed to be, or what a certain relationship is supposed to look like. And of course, when I say let go, I don't mean these things aren't going to pop into your head. I don't mean you're never going to feel desire and that you're never going to be disappointed when you don't get your desire. But you must let go of, you can't hold on to what comes from that. The disappointment will happen. And you may cry. You may feel it, but you cannot make it your identity. You cannot make it everything that you're about. Even if it's temporary, that is hurting you. Even if it's just for a week. Someone you liked didn't like you back. Someone you dated broke up with you and moved on. Try to avoid wallowing in it. I guess the way to do that is, like I said, let it go. Let go of the expectation. Accept what is. Let it hurt. Let yourself cry. Don't post about it 500 times on social media. Don't tell all your friends and family all about it every time you talk to them. Pick one friend and vent to them. Call your therapist and vent to them. But don't make it so much a part of your life that when you look back or when, Facebook memories pop up, you're constantly reminded of that moment of hurt. Because then you're creating something that is unnecessary, that is just going to perpetuate pain for you. And for what? Because you didn't get something you wanted? Because you had an expectation that didn't come through? Expectations don't always come through. Desires don't always come through. As important as it is to be aware of them, to feel them, to experience them, it's also important to remember that ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, they don't matter. Wants and desires are momentary. They're always momentary. If you want something, try this the next time you feel a strong desire for something. Do something, the second you start feeling that desire, do something else for 30 minutes. Do something that is engaging, something that forces your mind to have to focus on that thing that you're doing. And if you still want it as bad, do it again. Or do something else. And wait a while. Just keep doing that for a while. Maybe a day or two. And then check in again. Ask yourself if you need it. Ask yourself if this entire time that you desired it, have you gone without? Have you suffered? Have you lost anything? Have you experienced severe pain without it? Depending on what it is, your answers will obviously vary. How you respond to that will vary. I'm not here to give you all the answers. I'm just here to ask you to think. I'm just here to ask you to consider a different way from the way we've done everything, the way we've seen everything, the way we have existed as a society, the way we believe things should be is not necessarily right. The way things are is not necessarily right. And I personally believe that that's because we're not thinking about these things. We're placing value where value shouldn't be placed. Like I said, on wants, needs, and desires, on the physical presentation of masculinity and femininity, on just things that are not actually as important as we are trying to make them, on whether we feel a little bit uncomfortable or upset. We'll throw entire relationships away based on small moments of upsetness, or, a person who we always laugh with suddenly made us feel a little bit like not laughing, maybe called us out on something, and we'll throw the whole relationship away because we place value on our feelings that shouldn't. We place so much value on feelings that we shouldn't be placing on them. We place so much value on our desires. We place so much value on our genitals. We place so much value on things that we don't need to. So I am asking you to think a little deeper, to reassess how you approach relationships, how you approach sexuality, gender performance, how you approach every connection in your life. Because if more and more of us do that, there is no other option for society but to change with us, to grow and heal and love with us. So you go out there and do that, okay? I love you. So we have reached our tarot reading. Since this is, of course, the first episode, we don't have any questions. So I'm going to just ask a general message for the collective, okay? So I am asking my higher self, and I am asking the higher self of all those who are tuning in right now, who are listening now or in the future, anytime. I am asking our guides, I am asking the divine and all those beings who watch over us, who love us, and who want the best for us. Our angels, our higher selves, our spiritual guides, and so on. Please be with us today. Be with us and show us the way. I am asking for a general message for those who are listening to this podcast at this time, for those who are listening into this reading, this timeless reading. What is our general message? What can we carry with us after we are done here, after we have completed this episode? What can we carry with us, please? For anyone who hears this message, what can we carry with us, please? Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Ten of Wands, the Sun, a burden is coming to an end, Three of Cups, and we'll be reaching that end through connection. Ace of Pentacles. Be careful, there may be someone who doesn't want us to reach our happiness. Nine of Swords. Actually, take that back, it's us. It's our own anxiety. And the Fool. We need to overcome that anxiety and take a leap of faith. Go forward, move towards our final outcome, the Ten of Pentacles. So what we have here with our Ten of Wands ending at the Ten of Pentacles is that we are moving away from a time of heaviness. We're moving away from burdens. Our work that we have been doing is coming to an end, and we are just about to overcome, and we are just about to see the sun. And we're not going to be doing that alone. We're going to be celebrating. We're going to have friends and loved ones and families and lovers. We're going to have people there celebrating with us, celebrating our success, our fantastic existence, and our own anxiety is going to slip us up a little bit. It's going to slow us down a little bit, but we can overcome it. We can jump over it and say, you know what? That's me. That's my own distrust. That's my own worry. That's my own fear. And that's fine. It's fine to feel those things, but I don't need it. I don't need to hold on to it. I don't need it to make decisions for me. I don't need to allow it to make decisions for me. I'm going to keep moving forward, even though there is this anxiety, there is this fear of loss, this fear that everything I've worked for and all this good that's coming, that this other shoe is going to drop. I understand that I have this fear, but I don't care. I'm going to keep going forward, and when we do that, we are going to move into this Ten of Pentacles, this abundance, this thing that took some time. It was slow coming, and we were worried it was never going to come, but it came, and now we're here, and now we have more than we need, and we're cozy, and we're comfy. There's this cute little, you can't see the picture, I'm using the Gilded Tarot. There's a little rat in this image, and he's not a sneaky, stealing little rat. He's not a little angry rodent. He's a happy little thing, just saying, hey, I'm your cozy little friend, and swiftly I have brought you all this good. I know it took you time to get to the point where it's here, but now you have it, and everything's moving a little bit faster. This is wonderful. This is beautiful. This is exciting. So write me. Let me know if this resonated with you. Let me know how the next couple of weeks go for you. Okay? Until next time, take care. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tune in to our next episode where we'll be talking about twin flames and soulmates. Until then, know that you are loved, and I send you so many blessings. Bye now.